Thought I'd bring these bits to work and shove them in the blast cabinet and just see how much of the pitting corrosion I can get out before painting them up. Well, if I'm honest, that was rather less successful than I had hoped. It took quite a while to actually clean back to decent metal, probably 10-15 minutes. Meanwhile, as much as that thing is supposed to seal, it doesn't. So I've been breathing in lots of powder. So because of that, I'm going to concentrate on just the very ends to get the pitting corrosion out. And then the rest of it I'm going to do the old-fashioned way with a grinder and a wire wheel, which is annoying because I wanted this to be bish bash bosh done in a second, but it's not like the show on the telly. Well, maybe it is with an industrial compressor and blast cabinet, but not with this little thing. It isn't the best, but I have made some kind of progress. Got the worst of it off. The rusty bits actually clean up better than the bits that remain painted, so that's quite helpful in a way. I'm going to take them outside now and attack them with a grinder. When I say attack with a grinder, I'm using a paint strip head. Don't know what you actually call it, can't remember now, but you can Google it. It's really good because it's particularly on thin walled stuff, because I don't want to take any material away really. I want to leave the metal to just flick all the paint and the rust off. So this is much faster than blasting. It's just a bit harder to get into the nooks and crannies, but yeah, I'll proceed and then yeah, report back as per usual. Made some real progress, but there is nastiness. That is the lower pipe. This bracket would originally have been bent up and around, pointing almost like vertical. I've opened it up because I wanted to get access into that bit. Basically, this acts as a trap and it's just holding moisture against the pipe. It hasn't actually hold it, but I want to get in there with a wire wheel or a brush or something and get that out. So I'm going to go find some more pokey scrapey stuff. What I've done is opened that up further and then just been going through with a hacksaw, and I've exposed shiny metal and no holes. So that is very good news. It means I don't have to chop that off and weld a patch on and then weld the bracket back on. I am going to continue cleaning that area out and then do a final brush down and then start treating it with some rust neutralizer. I might even make up a batch of that Deox powder and then leave them all to soak, because that way it will clean the insides out as well. Found it after a lot of searching on a shelf where I'd kind of forgotten about it. This is another Bilthamber product, and again, I'm not sponsored or have done back-to-back testing or anything like that. It's just, I know it works. You mix it up with water. The higher the strength, the more it'll chew away at the rust. Unfortunately, I've got to use quite a big bucket. I can't find anything smaller, so I'm potentially going to be using a lot of this stuff when really I didn't need to, but never mind. The idea is you just mix it up, pour it in, ratio is recommended on the bottle. If you use warm water, it dilutes faster, and also presumably because it's a chemical reaction, the warmer it is, the faster it will take place. But yeah, I'm just going to fill that with warm water, the bare minimum I need to cover these parts. Might even leave the bucket at an angle so that I use less water, and then yeah, mix it up and let it do its stuff. Because I'm cheap and this stuff's quite expensive, I've balanced my tub at an angle with most of it sat in there, and what I'll do is I'll just keep popping down periodically, giving this a stir and flipping the parts so that it all gets a decent soaking. There's no set time for how long you leave it. The longer you leave it, the more it'll eat the rust. And also it will be a good idea to come back and just agitate the surfaces, because it's eating off the top layer, but then if that becomes loose you can scrape that back and, you know, keep going, help it do its stuff. So yeah, I'm going to leave that, go upstairs and have a lunch. While these pipes have been soaking, I've been taken a closer look at this one, annoyingly, we have got some issues. There's a crack or a hole basically there, and a similar sort of start of a crack running along that one as well. So I think this is a tube that's made from flat, which is like rolled into a tube shape and then welded, and it's corroded along that weld line and then fractured out. So before this goes back in the car, I'll need to address that, because whoever gets the car after me, this is going to be in the engine bay, you're just not going to see it, and that's going to blow out, they're going to lose coolant and cook the engine. So I either need to find another one of these pipes or weld that up if I can without it just farting and blowing a massive hole, or possibly chopping the end off there, trying to reform a bead, which is going to be hard because it's steel. I'm going to think on that a little bit more. What I'll probably do is try and weld it, see how that goes. If it looks good, continue with that method. If it doesn't, try and get a second hand one, but I imagine that's going to be hard to find because they're probably all like that now, given that these cars are, you know, 20-30 years old. Got my welder out, also given these bits a very fine tickle with the grinder just to expose the cracks. Where's the other one? Oh, lost it. That's under there. I'm going to have try and weld it and see exactly what it does. This will either work nicely or it'll just evaporate off and basically disappear to nothing. Again, I still haven't got around to getting a tripod, and I'm just using my iPhone, so no action shots, I'm afraid. This is going surprisingly well. I've welded it and it's not blown a big hole. It's gone pretty nice, and I'm confident that's going to work. I've made deliberately ground back longer than I could see, because it's always certain that that crack is propagating internally as well. So I'm just going to keep going and weld all that up, and then linish it back smooth, and then shove it back in a tank of Deox powder. So I shall try and pick this up without burning myself. So that's all cleaned off now. Most of this you won't see when it's in the car anyway, because it's either got pipes over it or it's just in an area you won't spot it. That runs across the front of the engine, but the weld is on the underside. So that's all good, that's waterproof. I'll continue the de-rusting and then paint it black. Fast forward about 3 hours. This stuff has just been soaking. Got a nice tide line there. I really should have left that bit in it a bit more. You can see where rust is starting to get eaten off. I'm saying that more because I know what it does, because I've used it in the past. It's not particularly apparent in these videos, but I would say it is one of the best ones that I've tried. Well, what I'll do is I'll give them a bit more of a stir. I might even leave them in here all weekend. Oh, incidentally, you might think I need gloves, but as long as you don't drink it, I think it's all right. Health and safety. Blah, 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 blah. Prolonged contact with the skin, so there we go. I'm not going to die anytime soon. Right. Just splashed it all over my nice work shirt. Never mind. I'm quite encouraged by the fact I haven't found any more holes in these. I've been looking on the internet and you can't easily buy these, or certainly you can't, or I haven't found that one yet, and I haven't found that one. I think you might still be able to get this little one. Back in the day when people were modifying MG ZRs and doing turbo conversions using T16 engines, or just pimping up R8s with turbo T16s. You could get all of this stuff done in stainless, but I haven't managed to find any of that yet. I do want to get a stainless setup for the Bubble Mark III turbo I'm doing, but for this 2 litre touring, I think I'll just make do with these de-rusted and painted up with lots of thick black paint. It struck me that that last bit of video wasn't particularly helpful for anyone who is thinking about using this Deox-C. So what I've done is I've pulled that bit back out of the tank. This all had been under the fluid for the last 3 hours or so, and that area there I haven't actually attacked with the cleaning disc at all, or the blaster. So that is just crappy surface rust that's been in that tank and no other agitation. That is a steel brush, so if I can, I'll clean that up and you can see just how effective or not it has been in 3 hours. Let's give it a quick rinse. You shouldn't really be doing this in your workshop, but you get the idea. So it is actually starting to eat the rust scale off. That black stuff is like the byproduct, but it kind of comes off when you scrape it most of the time, like that, and then there's more rust underneath. So this is the benefit of agitating it and then putting it back in. So I will just continue to let it do its stuff, and then hopefully I'll have a bit more confidence that when it's primed and then painted, it's not just going to rust instantly. Several hours later, stuff is still soaking away and I'm agitating it periodically, giving it a bit of a tickle with the brush. A slight fail, I took the 2 screws or bolts that were in there and put them in the bottom of the bucket. Couldn't find them, wondered where the hell they'd gone. Somehow they're both now inside that pipe and I can't get them out. So I'm going to have further fun working out how to go about doing that. Really annoying. Got them. That was really seriously annoying. Involved airline, compressed air. They can go back in there. That's now ready to just sit over the weekend. I've got the rustiest bits actually in the fluid and the rest can just sit in free air because it's actually not so bad. Thought I'd set up a test piece. This is an old rusty joist hanger. It's mostly surface rust on top of galvanised, but I'm just going to put that in there. So this is what it looks like now. I haven't done any wire brushing on it, and if I was to do some wire brushing, this would be the result. So starting to expose a tiny bit, but not a great deal going on. So I'm going to put that in there and then we can see what it does over the weekend. Gloved up. Let's have a first look at this. So this, if you remember, was just a random bracket that I put in to see what happens when you leave the stuff in the tank. You can see that's where the corrosion was. Basically, it ain't there. Well, I say it's not there. Something's there, but it's the converted rust. That's rough, smooth. Yeah, hard to explain really, but it's definitely done something. there literally is no oxidation on there whatsoever. It's just smooth metal. So that's why I like the Bilthamber stuff, because it actually does what it says on the tin. To quote Ron Seal. That bit probably this is why agitating it or tapping it as you go is a good idea. All that surface rust is just coming off on my thumb now. At that point I got interrupted with a phone call. That's the penalty of using your iPhone as also your camera. But I think I was cleaning that bit or just rubbing the surface rust off. But you can see, well, I can see, basically we're left with pitting corrosion, or where there is corrosion left, it's been coloured black. So all of that is good for a final brush down, cleaning in spirits or fresh water, and then degreased, and then etch, prime and paint. I was wrong. It was actually that bit that I was cleaning up before I was interrupted with the phone call. I've just gone over it with that brush, and that is the result. And if you remember, that's the bit I was most concerned about. Then I went and put this bit back in the fresh water and again scrubbed it with the brush, and that is the result. Perfect metal. So just as an illustration, I haven't done that bit yet. Fresh water. I really wish I had my GoPro here. Change of hands. Elbow. Pretty impressive stuff really, isn't it? And as an illustration, hold this again, that bit which was never cleaned. You could spend all day doing that and you're still not going to get it as clean. It's starting to come off, but it's left all that pitting stuff. So basically, use that Deox-C, it's good stuff. Just been wire brushing these to get the worst of it off. Can you get some sandpaper now and just key them up, because when you use that sort of thing it ends up polishing the metal and then the paint doesn't stick very well. So I'll get some sandpaper and rough it up and then decide what it is I'm going to paint it with. Those have all been degreased now with panel wipe. The bottom two pipes, the ones that you won't see very well, or in the engine bay when they're fitted you just can't really see them because they're tucked away, they are also in the harshest environment, so they are going to get Bonder primer. This little one at the top sits right across the top front of the engine, so when you open the engine bay that's the one you see going from the thermostat housing off towards the header tank. So I don't want to do that with the Bonder primer because you'll just see all the brush marks. So I'm going to do that with etch and then go over the top with black paint afterwards. This bracket I bent away to get access to clean in there, so I'll leave that open for the moment till I've finished priming it. Then I'll close that back up. Then I'll spray them all with the black gloss. So there we have the lower pipe in Bonder primer, top one in etch, then other one in Bonder. So I've got to wait for that to go off, then I can paint them black. Well, it's time for a ta-da moment, because we have waterproof shiny black pipes. Not that they were ever actually leaking in the car. There's no evidence that they ever were, because I would have seen the coolant dribble marks. But it's more about preventative maintenance and the fact that they looked, particularly that one, a little bit untidy. I thought I'd better paint them up. So yeah, all welded up, all painted. Now I just got to wait for them to dry. Put them back in the car. Well, I've just left work and those coolant pipes drying. So I'm back in my pigsty of a workshop and looking at the coolant sensors I've had a chat with Simon, and he's said and explained what's what. Basically, they are the same and they do the same job. One of them failed and he tried to replace it, but it had basically welded itself into the side of the radiator, and that explains why I had such a fight trying to get it out. I had to lever it out with screwdrivers in the end, something which couldn't easily be done in the car for access. So basically Simon shoved a second one in, either Simon or the previous owner, I can't remember what he said, but basically I only need one of them. So I'm going to get my new radiator, which has the blanks, and drill a hole with a hole saw the right diameter. Unfortunately I don't have a hole saw that's the perfect size, but it's close, so what I'll do is I'll drill it and then probably have to file it out or sand it out a bit deeper. Nothing's easy, is it? So I drilled myself a nice pilot hole, went through with the battery drill and a hole saw. I thought I'd be clever and hold the radiator up on edge on this bookshelf thing, but despite doing that, there is my bit I've drilled out, and it's actually landed inside the radiator. That tank goes all the way down to here, so I'm hoping I can jiggle it out. If not, I might put some super glue on the end of a screwdriver and then see if I can stick it to that and pull it through. Annoying. Ta-da! Got him, little bastard. So that can go away. Now I need to go and find my sensors and just double check how big that hole needs to be and stick it in there. That's now in. Basically filed off the rough edges, put the rubber seal in, then lubed it all with WD-40, popped the sensor in, and then pushed the gate down. So that's in there, that's not going anywhere. The last thing to do will be to mount the radiators, but I don't want to, mount the fan on the radiator. I don't want to do that until I've got this in the car, so I know that I've got it exactly right and it's not going to get burnt on the exhaust or something stupid like that.